The name of this project is the most important thing. It's a collaborative effort between ACNUR and myself. And the aim of the project is to rehumanize people who have been dehumanized by their situation. All the refugees photographed here are not just refugees. They're individual people and they have individual stories. The expressions that you have in people's faces, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that I'll spend an hour or 2 hours just sitting and chatting and asking about people, about their families, about their experiences, why they had to flee. I'm not a portrait photographer. By profession, I'm a reportage photographer, photographing for magazines and newspapers traditionally. So the black backdrop is an attempt to remove the person partially from their environment. These refugee camps are very crowded and kind of frequently chaotic places. So it puts the person partially in context, but in a way that they're not being overwhelmed or swallowed up by the refugee camps in which they're located. Some people are immediately very excited to tell their stories, to have their photographs taken, and really want to convey something. Other people will take some convincing. Why do you want to talk to me? For what reason? Are you trying to get some gain off of this? Or and I'll show photographs on my telephone of the existing portraits in the series, and just take some time to explain why it is that I'm there, or what it is that I'm doing. And there have maybe been a couple of people who said, no, I really don't want to be photographed, which is completely fine, of course. But most people, once they've taken a bit of time to speak with me and with the translators that I work with, are very open to being photographed. The photograph that's right behind you there, his name is Jean, the fisherman. Jean, I had the chance to meet several days before I photographed him. Most people, I meet an hour or so before the camera comes out, but Jean I met, I think probably about a week before the photograph was taken. And Jean always had a smile on his face, and he was just the most energetic guy in camp. He was always busy doing all this. He was out fishing, or he was mending his nets, or he was with his kids and playing. And I just got the impression he was an incredibly happy, boisterous person. He's a refugee, but he was one of the happiest people in the camp. And I said, oh, okay, well, let me talk with you about the most important thing. And during the course of the interview, this guy who had just the brightest smile you've ever seen completely broke down. The reason his most important thing was a fishing net, but the story behind it was his wife was visiting her mother, and Jean was with his mother in their village in the Central African Republic. And at night, there was a knocking at the door. It was too late, and he said, don't answer the door. And he hid underneath his mother's bed thinking that something was wrong, and then the door was burst down, and armed men came inside. And his mother had a tiny business that was manufacturing soap or oil. She'd made just a very, very small amount of money. And some of the neighbors had said, oh, that old woman over there, she's got money, go to her instead. And so they came in and demanded the money. She said, I don't have any. And then they slit her throat while she was in her bed. And her son was directly underneath the bed and lay there through the course of the night underneath his mother's body. The men ransacked the house, took whatever they could find, and never looked under the bed. So it's just a miracle that he survived. And just his eyes just filling with tears, and the transformation that he made from the happiest, most energetic guy to this completely crushed soul. And then after telling the story, he had kind of a cathartic reaction. He bounced back. And it just proved to me how strong the human heart is, that we can endure so much and still maintain our humanity. People coming together. There's a tremendous sense of community. People that back in their own environment might be competing with one another for resources or jobs or whatnot. In refugee camps, the extent to which refugees work together is pretty phenomenal. There's a real sense of kind of community spirit. And one of the things that the project looks at is this idea of value. What do people value when they're removed from the environment in which they've lived their lives? And for a lot of people, it's maintaining a continued sense of cultural identity. And so the community that people have in order to maintain their culture when surrounded by a different society comes through. But just the extent to which people are, have next to nothing and are still sharing. I come in, I show up in a Land Cruiser and I'm in a camp for a matter of hours or days, and people are still offering me tea or me coffee, and they have next to nothing whatsoever. They've abandoned everything that they had in their home country and fled and are now in a camp and are still being exceptionally generous. It's just amazing to see.